Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and NBs, to yet another episode of the good old Deprogram. Today we return with a fan favorite, Titans of Industry, and we are digging deep. One could say we'll break through every barrier and hit the spot. And no, I'm not talking about phallic objects again or the complex history and current state of the sex toy industry. We're talking about a different kind of penetrating force that has influenced the direction of civilization for a millennia. Mining. Today, for some reason, Hakeem is very, what's the word? Prude. No, not prude. When somebody's doesn't want to talk about boobs. But I respect it. Even though he's the cock and balls guy. But, he's tired.
Hey, it's professional.
He's seen too many cocks today. Oh, and the podcast is not professional, okay? There you go. You have another excuse. So that it's not lewd, but it's prude. Before we start, thank you everyone on Patreon that supports our work here on the Deprogram.com.
Absolutely.
The more you donate on Patreon, the more deprogrammed you are. The less you donate, the more programmed you are.
Exactly right.
Do check it out. You get so many bonuses. I don't think any other show does this.
2 exclusive episodes. You get to join the Discord. You get live chats with us at the Habibi tier, and so many other fantastic perks. But the most important thing is, the more patrons we have, the sooner I get to stop fucking. The sooner I get to quit. not my day job. I mean, not this. Jesus fucking Christ. Do you know how my life every single fucking day for the past 3 or 4 weeks now, right, has been like this? I get up, I get to fucking work by 7 a.m. I work all the way until whatever the fuck, 5 in the evening, 6, 8 in the evening, 9 in the evening, doesn't fucking matter. And then I come home, and then afterwards, I do some more work. It's this shit that I do. And then I get to bed, and then I repeat over and over, fucking, please.
Save Hakeem. I repeat, save Hakeem.
Oh my God, we need to do a drive. We need to do the Save Hakeem drive.
We should. It's a great idea. This is the Hakeem drive. Donate to the Hakeem coin. It will return threefold in content. And
absolutely.
The literally best class analysis on the internet. Which this man possesses in his beautiful red floating skull.
Absolutely.
Okay, but yeah, let's get serious. Today we will be talking about mining. What even is that? The unsanctioned assault by human hubris on our planet, or just digging really, really deep and finding some cool shit? That's on you to decide. What kind of shit do we dig up, though? We gotta answer first. And oh Lord, that's diverse. You got the pretty shit, like gold, that's precious metal. You got the basic shit, like iron and nickel. Those are ferrous metals because they all contain iron. They're the more practical but less beloved cousins of precious metals. Then we have the non-iron containing non-magnetic metals, copper, aluminum, and so on, which leads us to the main player, liquid gold. Fossil fuels of all kind, coal, oil, natural gas, all sorts of compressed ancient corpse fluids basically powering your Dodge Ram since 10 million years ago. And to round it off, we finally have construction materials like limestone, sand, gravel, clay, and gypsum, which are mined for use in concrete, cement, and other building materials. Industrial materials like phosphates and your girlfriend's materials. Yes, gemstones, ranging from diamonds, rubies, sapphires, and so on. When God createth woman, he createth the diamond and buried it 2 kilometers deep underground as an allegory to the process of figuring out what a woman really wants.
Oh my God.
Quite pathetic, quite poetic.
Oh my God.
That was not bad, huh? That was good. You gotta give me that.
That was funny, yeah, but
Okay.
I like it. I love the boomer memes. I love the ironic I hate my wife memes.
Yeah, of course. But okay, jokes aside, our species, as we said earlier to an extent, cannot create anything. We are subjects and products of matter, the material world which we mold to suit our purpose. Even the most sci-fi conceptions of organic 3D printers would require input, resource, matter, to style according to our needs. We mold the world we do not create, and mining is the peak expression of just that. Finding what we need to push this species of ours to greater heights. Hell, what do you think the first thing we'll do is going to be the second we can land on another planet in the first place? We'll mine it, of course. So the question remains, who gets to enjoy the fruits of the human ability to mold nature? The privileged few who believe they can privatize it, or our species as a whole? Does this communal skill of ours get co-opted by parasitic members of our people, or does it lift us all to new heights? Today's episode will be divided in two parts. We'll start off with the current state of the mining industry, the big player, the first one at least, the corporate overview, and so on. And then Hakeem will jump on and give a historical and dialectical overview of how we got here since the first time we dug up a cool thing from the ground and said, holy shit, I'm becoming a dwarf right now. So, who are the biggest players on planet Earth? Well, the world's 50 most valuable miners are now worth $1.4 trillion, up $80 billion from end 2024. Our time here is obviously limited, so let me introduce you to some of the top 5 players in this incredibly high-stakes capitalist game of planet drilling. I will give you 2. Let's start out with a company near and dear to my part of the world in particular, Rio Tinto. Near and dear because currently there's an outstanding EU strategy of exporting the environmental damage necessary for the electric car green evolution by making sure lithium mining for said EU gets done as quickly and cheaply as possible without hurting any of the EU states, which has led them to trying to dig up and pollute Serbia, which is extremely lithium rich and would not have to follow rules and regulations which exist in EU proper. Reminder, Serbia is not in the EU. This, of course, is intended to make the process cheaper and faster, while not caring really about wider pollution. A constant you will notice in today's conversations, while mining is not only okay but often necessary for progress, profit chasing clouds judgment, rushes projects, and commits to unnecessary surpluses of pollution and exploitation. So, Rio Tinto, one of the world's largest multinational mining corporations, has played a significant role in the global extraction of minerals such as iron ore, copper, aluminium, and even uranium. While the company presents itself as a driver of economic development, a critical Marxist and environmentalist perspective reveals its exploitative labor practices, environmental destruction, and complicity in neocolonial resource extraction. Rio Tinto exemplifies the contradictions of capitalist production, where profit is prioritized over human and environmental well-being, what I like to call it literal species treason. Its origins trace back to 1873, when it was founded to mine copper in Spain's Rio Tinto region. That's where it got its name. The company's early operations relied on exploitative labor conditions, including low wages, hazardous working environments, pattern that surprised no one and that continued as the company expanded globally, particularly in, guess where, former colonial territories, where, of course, cheap labor and weak regulations facilitated what most listeners at this point need to know what that means: super profits. Since its founding in 73, the company has contaminated rivers, land, and air with heavy metals and acid mine drainage. In Spain, the Rio Tinto River turned red due to mining waste, rendering it completely biologically dead. Large-scale mining operations in places like Madagascar and Indonesia have destroyed whole forests, and the company remains a major carbon emitter due to unnecessarily energy-intensive extraction processes, despite claims of moving towards quote-unquote net zero. The company demolished 46,000-year-old Aboriginal caves in Western Australia to expand an iron ore mine, despite knowing their cultural significance, which sparked global outrage and forced an inadequate corporate apology. The Panguna mine, operated from 72 to 89, caused severe environmental damage and fueled a decade-long civil war after indigenous landowners owners rebelled against the company's exploitation. The company promotes itself as a leader in responsible mining, yet its core business model remains hyper-extractive and harmful due to its quote-unquote need to be fast and deliver shareholders constantly increasing value, while compensation for affected communities is minimal compared to the long-term damage inflicted or profits gained. The general pattern of behavior by resource-oriented corporations is usually referred to by Marxists as accumulation by dispossession, where natural resources are extracted from the global south to benefit wealthy shareholders in the global north. Rio Tinto's operations in Africa, Latin America, and Oceania follow this model too, where local communities bear the entirety of the environmental and social costs, while profits are completely siphoned offshore. So, how do they make sure locals are quote unquote okay with holding the bag? Well, these guys were doing lobbying with the real OGs, going back all the way to the end of the 19th century. They threw money at local political candidates, police chiefs, and the like, who would be open to pushing the community to accepting large-scale mining operations at minimal cost and maximum damage to said community. For example, in Spain's Huelva province, they successfully repealed the Albaret decree, which prohibited open-air ore calcinations in 1888 because of the pollutants they caused by pretty much legally cooing the government through lobbying. From there, they grew into political influence over Madrid proper, even running a whole-ass pro-unsustainable mining newspaper. I'm pretty sure all of this sounds familiar because companies like Rio Tinto set the standards of lobbying and media manipulation and what some call consent manufacturing until today. When a corporate entity realizes it can gain more by manipulating local communities than by following regulations, they don't mind filling the pockets of whatever local quisling, well-intentioned or not, is willing to take it. A couple of world wars, civil wars, and crises later, Rio Tinto internationalized, moving into all sorts of British colonies, including Rhodesia, but that story you already heard about. Today, by most lists, they are the second largest mining corporation. Lobbying, super profits, and the siphoning of resources without proper pay. A classic capitalist story. Now, let's have Hakeem give us a general historic Marxian view into our species' relationship into mining, and I'll finish us off with one more top player in the end.
Hey, thank you very much. Beautifully said as always. I'm not going to start too far back because I don't want us to be talking for the next 2 hours. So I'm going to kind of start around the feudal period, at least for the European sense. And I'll kind of touch on the Asiatic mode of production soon. Generally, in feudal Europe, when there was the absolutist rule of kings, or in general feudal societies overall, the unit of production was land, and the wealth was measured in land, really. That's why the rewards of, for example, feudal lords or knights or whatever was usually land. Why? Because land can be settled, and then you can have serfs or whatever, peasants and whatnot, work that land, and then you can get a surplus from that, which would then be a form of accumulation that the lord or the knight or whatever would have. Mineral resources were usually part of this territory. That means everything above and below the land. Generally, in feudal societies, the king had or owned what was above and below. And this was valid for silver or gold or whatever else. Sometimes it was distributed between noble houses as well, but that was just kind of like, oh, we're controlling it on behalf of the king, that kind of stuff, where they take a segment. So this royal monopoly generally over all resources below soil, and particularly precious metals, was the norm for feudal societies generally. When it came to mines, these were usually operated directly by the crown, or they were leased to aristocrats or feudal lords who would then mine it on behalf of the crown and then give a portion or a tax or whatever as a bounty, I guess, to the crown. Many times this would create, of course, animosity because you'd have a feudal lord who would have a very productive mine, and he'd be like, well, I'm the one doing all the work and I'm the one doing everything. Why should I be giving anything to the king? And that would start a certain ideological trend of more, I guess, non-hierarchical control over land. which would then combine with the proto-capitalist development in urban centers, the so-called burgers or borgers, as we would jokingly call them. These artisans in these towns, who would be usually metal workers refining metals, not usually the ones doing the mining themselves, would very quickly realize that there's a lot of wealth to be generated through this, and that they're the ones who are doing all the work on the metals, and sometimes they may have also some connection with the people who are doing the mining. So why is the crown involved at all in this?
Absolutely.
And this would allow certain groupings of burghers who would get wealthy from these artisanal activities in towns to then start supporting mining operations outside of the control of the king or the crown. Normally, the crown would mobilize mining specifically for their purposes, when it comes to, for example, the military purpose, or for dedicated economic projects or infrastructure projects, so on and so forth. But now, burghers would mobilize their capital, which is usually money, in order to either take control of or influence the mining of certain mines, increasing their production, and then bringing those to market so that they could make even more money. This is the beginning of the, MCM cycle that would follow within capitalist development.